The Senate passed the president's so-called big, beautiful bill by a narrow margin on Tuesday. It's a bill that has sparked a lot of controversy over its cuts to programs like Medicaid and SNAP benefits. And this morning, Elon Musk, a vocal critic of the budget bill, is championing a new political party that he believes will be more aligned with Americans' viewpoints. At the same time, Democrats aren't publicly endorsing a popular New York City mayoral candidate who calls himself a democratic socialist. So what are the odds we could see a new political party emerge in the next few years? For that, we bring in North Central College political science professor Stephen Caliendo. Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm really well, Natalie. How are you today?
I am great. I was interested to talk about this topic. Do you think that Americans are disenfranchised enough that there could be support for a new political party right now?
There's always a potential for some sort of shift. Whether it's Elon Musk that will be able to pull something like this off is another question. Our electoral structure is such that it's very difficult to start a brand new political party or to have a viable third party. We've seen it several times throughout history, often with very well-funded candidates, and it almost always goes nowhere.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean that we might not see some shifts, but I don't think it's going to be Elon Musk that's going to be pulling it off.
You touched on this. Let's talk about the history of this. What was the last new political party to actually gain some traction, make some waves?
Well, I mean, it ended up not being a party. So in 1992, Ross Perot ran for president. I know it's before your time, Natalie,
no,
but I was there. I was there.
I was alive. I remember it well.
And he did try to start a political party that in 1996, when he ran again, he didn't do as well. But even in that first time that he ran, remember, he got 19% of the vote in 1992 nationwide. It's 1 in 5 Americans voted for Ross Perot, but he got 0 electoral votes. Didn't come anywhere close to being president. Now, it's different when you're running for Congress. You're different when you're running in a district. All you have to do is beat the other two party candidates, but that's not an easy thing. We have campaign finance laws that make that difficult, and we have ballot access laws that are state by state that also make that quite challenging.
So it may not just be the will of the people. You got to have money behind you. You got to have more than that.
There's a structure, right?
Gotcha. Okay, so American pride is actually slipping, hitting an all-time low, according to a new Gallup poll, with only 58% of U.S. adults saying they are extremely or very proud to be an American. So could this change with the introduction of a new party? Could this move us in that direction, despite everything that you just said?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful question. In other words, we're typically thinking about it in the reverse. That is the decrease in feelings of patriotism going to move us toward a new party? Your question is very interesting, right? If a new party were to emerge, could that have a possible effect on whether or not people feel more patriotic? Part of it also, too, I will tell you as a social scientist, the way the question's worded matters a lot in terms of polling like this, what it means to feel proud to be an American. Some people answer that question in a very general sense. Other people answer that question about what's happening at the current time. In other words, they may feel. So there's an internal validity sort of challenge to asking questions like that, especially when we try to market over time.
You know, if a new party is created, what ideologies do you think would be most important?
Well, the last 2 times, so if you think about this time, Elon Musk, and then in the 90s with Ross Perot, both times have been focused on the national debt, right? Running up a national debt and whether we should have balanced budgets, et cetera. And so there's no question that that's what's moving along this particular conversation. I will tell you, though, it's policy issues that really get us in the friction.
Those social issues.
Absolutely right. And so, in other words, you think about an issue like abortion, which is so divisive, and people have such strong opinions on. Really, the parties are opposite in terms of worldview on this. In other words, Republicans are typically the ones that say keep government out, but on abortion, of course, they want government to be in. Democrats are usually the ones that say government should have a role, but on abortion, they're saying get out of our bedrooms, get out of our lives, right? And so it's not really always about ideology. Those issue positions matter quite a bit.
So complicated.
It's so
I feel like my head's going to explode. Last question for you, just because you are in the college setting, you're working with young people, what is their viewpoint on all of this when you speak to them?
There's a lot of frustration. There's no question amongst young people. There is some excitement about some of the emergence of younger people, and that's not new. That's not new. That happened in the 1960s. It happened again in the 1980s. So when new people come on the scene, the young people kind of attach themselves to that. So there's some excitement there. But they also understand the history enough to know that change is very slow. Change, and it's deliberate, right? That's the way that the framers set up our constitutional republic. But that's frustrating, especially because they see injustice, they see people suffering generation after generation. They would like to see change come more quickly. They're not as patient as some of us older folks tend
Well,
to be.
it'll be interesting to see through the generations how things change. Professor, thank you again
It's
for
great to
coming
see you.
in. Good
It's
to see you too.